Maya Chan pushed through the mess hall doors during the dinner rush, her plain fatigues and unremarkable posture drawing little attention from the crowd of hungry soldiers. The cacophony of conversations, clattering trays, and scraping chairs filled the enormous space as hundreds of personnel moved through serving lines and claimed seats at long metal tables. She collected a standard meal tray with practiced efficiency, navigating between groups of animated recruits and seasoned NCOs without making eye contact. The corner table she selected offered clear sight lines to all exits while positioning her back against the wall, though her choice appeared random to casual observers. Chen began eating methodically, her movements deliberate yet unremarkable as conversations flowed around her like water around a stone. Most diners focused on their own meals and discussions, but 5 recruits at a nearby table had begun studying her with growing interest. Davidson, a broad-shouldered recruit with sergeant stripes sewn too hastily onto his sleeves, leaned back in his chair and gestured toward Chun with his fork. His 4 companions turned to follow his gaze, their expressions shifting from curiosity to predatory amusement as they assessed the solitary figure. Rodriguez whispered something that made the group chuckle, while Mills cracked his knuckles in an exaggerated display. The youngest, Peterson, seemed hesitant until Davidson's sharp look silenced his doubts. Before you continue with this story, I'm curious about where you're watching from tonight. Are you in a military town or somewhere that has a lot of veterans in your community? Sometimes these stories hit differently, depending on where you are. Chun maintained her steady eating pace as the recruits' voices grew louder, their comments becoming increasingly crude and pointed. Davidson stood first, his chair scraping against the floor as he pushed back from the table with theatrical slowness. His companions followed suit, forming a loose semicircle as they approached Chen's position with the swagger of predators circling isolated prey. The surrounding conversations dimmed slightly as nearby diners sensed the shift in atmosphere, though most continued their meals while stealing glances at the developing confrontation. Chen's posture remained relaxed, her movements unchanged as she continued cutting her food with mechanical precision. Davidson planted his hands on her table and leaned forward, his bulk casting a shadow across her tray. "You don't belong here, civilian," Davidson announced loud enough for surrounding tables to hear clearly. "This is a military facility, not some corporate cafeteria where contractors can wander around freely." His voice carried the entitled confidence of someone accustomed to intimidating perceived outsiders, while his 4 companions arranged themselves to block any potential escape routes. Chun lifted her eyes slowly, meeting Davidson's gaze with an expression of mild curiosity rather than fear or anger. The mess hall's background noise continued around them, but the immediate area had grown noticeably quieter as witnesses sensed the escalating tension. She set down her utensils with deliberate care and spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "I suggest you return to your table and finish your meal," she said evenly, her tone carrying no trace of threat or emotion. Davidson's confident smirk widened as he interpreted her calm response as weakness, while his companions exchanged glances that promised escalation. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shatter assumptions and reveal truths that would echo through the base for months to come. Davidson's smirk transformed into a sneer as he dismissed Chen's quiet warning with theatrical contempt. He reached across the table and grabbed her shoulder with enough force to demonstrate his perceived dominance, while Rodriguez and Mills moved to flank her chair and Peterson blocked the narrow aisle behind her. The coordinated positioning revealed their experience with intimidation tactics, though their target remained unnaturally calm despite being surrounded. Chen's muscles relaxed further as Davidson's grip tightened on her shoulder, a response that confused the recruits who expected fear or angry resistance. She placed her napkin beside her tray with the same methodical precision she had used throughout the meal, then looked up at Davidson with an expression of patient disappointment. The mess hall's ambient noise continued around them, but conversations at adjacent tables had stopped entirely as witnesses recognized the confrontation's serious escalation. I gave you an opportunity to walk away, Chen said quietly, her voice carrying a finality that made Peterson shift nervously despite his companion's confidence. Davidson responded by attempting to force her from the chair, his hand pressing down on her shoulder while his free arm gestured for his friends to close the circle. The movement triggered Chen's response with mechanical precision. Her left hand moved in a blur, capturing Davidson's wrist and rotating it with surgical accuracy until his grip broke and his arm locked at an impossible angle. The big recruit's confident expression shattered into shocked pain as Chun rose smoothly from her chair, maintaining the joint lock that kept him completely immobilized. Rodriguez lunged forward to help his friend, but Chen's right elbow caught him in the solar plexus with devastating precision, dropping him to his knees, gasping for breath. Mills charged from the opposite side, expecting Chen's focus on his two companions to create an opening for his attack. Instead, Chen released Davidson's wrist and pivoted fluidly, her movement placing the stunned recruit directly in Mills' path, while her sweeping leg sent both men crashing into the adjacent table. Food trays scattered across the floor as witnesses scrambled backward, their shock evident in the sudden silence that replaced the mess hall's previous din. Peterson hesitated for a crucial second, torn between loyalty to his friends and growing terror at Chen's impossible speed and precision. His delay proved fatal to any chance of success as Chun advanced with predatory calm, her movements flowing like water around his clumsy, defensive stance. A single strike to his shoulder sent him spinning into the wall, where he slumped unconscious beside the overturned furniture. Davidson struggled to his feet and drew a tactical knife from his belt, the blade gleaming under the fluorescent lights as his face twisted with rage and humiliation. The weapon's appearance sent nearby diners scrambling for safety, their chairs scraping against the floor as they created distance from the escalating violence. Chen's expression never changed as she watched Davidson brandish the knife with trembling hands, his earlier confidence replaced by desperate fury. "You think you're tough without your friends to help?" Davidson snarled, advancing with the blade extended toward Chen's chest. His movements were telegraphed and clumsy, driven by emotion rather than training as he sought to reclaim dominance through superior weaponry. Chen stepped forward to meet his charge, her speed turning his advance into a tactical disaster. Her hand closed over his wrist like a steel trap, controlling the knife's trajectory, while her opposite palm struck his elbow with devastating force. The blade clattered harmlessly to the floor as Davidson's arm went limp, followed immediately by his unconscious body as Chen's knee found his midsection with surgical precision. The entire confrontation had lasted less than 30 seconds, leaving 5 recruits scattered across the mess hall floor, while Chen stood untouched among the wreckage. The massive dining facility had fallen completely silent, hundreds of eyes fixed on the small woman who had just dismantled 5 armed men with mechanical efficiency. Chun straightened her uniform and returned to her table, stepping carefully around the groaning bodies as she resumed her seat. She picked up her fork and continued eating as if nothing had happened, while shocked witnesses struggled to process what they had just observed. Master Sergeant Rodriguez watched from across the room, his experienced eyes recognizing combat techniques that belonged in classified training manuals rather than a routine mess hall confrontation. The precision and restraint Sean had displayed spoke of elite training that few personnel possessed, raising questions about her true identity that would soon demand answers from the highest levels of command. Master Sergeant Rodriguez pushed back from his table and approached the scene with measured steps, his 20-year veteran instincts recognizing combat techniques that shouldn't exist in a routine mess hall incident. The scattered recruits groaned and struggled to regain consciousness, while Chun continued eating with mechanical precision, her calm demeanor more unsettling than any display of aggression. Rodriguez noted how she kept her peripheral vision active despite appearing focused on her meal, a habit drilled into special operations personnel through years of hostile environment training. The mess hall's atmosphere had transformed from shocked silence into nervous whispers as witnesses processed the impossible speed and efficiency they had just observed. Chin's movements had been controlled and precise, designed to incapacitate rather than permanently damage, suggesting professional training that extended far beyond standard military instruction. Rodriguez recognized the joint manipulation techniques from classified manuals he had studied during his own special operations assignments decades earlier. Chin glanced up as Rodriguez approached her table, her expression neutral but alert as she assessed the approaching NCO's intentions and capabilities. She had noted his careful observation during the confrontation and recognized his movement patterns as those of someone with advanced combat experience. Rodriguez stopped at a respectful distance and spoke quietly, ensuring their conversation wouldn't carry to the growing crowd of curious onlookers. "That was some impressive self-defense work," he said carefully, his tone conveying professional respect rather than suspicion or challenge. Chin's response came without pause, delivered in the same calm voice she had used throughout the incident. "I defended myself against assault by 5 individuals who refused multiple opportunities to disengage peacefully." The base security alarm echoed through the facility as emergency responders mobilized toward the mess hall, their rapid arrival suggesting someone had triggered the incident alert system during the confrontation. Chin finished her meal methodically while Rodriguez maintained his position nearby, his presence serving as an unofficial buffer between her and the growing crowd of witnesses. The approaching sirens indicated medical personnel were en route to treat the injured recruits. Security personnel flooded through the main entrance with practiced efficiency, their training evident as they secured the scene and began separating witnesses for individual interviews. The team leader, Staff Sergeant Williams, surveyed the unconscious recruits and overturned furniture while his colleagues established a perimeter around the affected area. Medical technicians followed immediately behind, moving toward the groaning figures sprawled across the floor. Chin provided her statement with clinical precision when Williams approached her table, describing the incident as unprovoked assault by 5 individuals who had cornered and physically attacked her without justification. Her account was factual and concise, offering no emotional embellishment or speculation about the recruits' motivations. Williams noted the stark contrast between her composed demeanor and the extensive damage she had inflicted on her attackers. Rodriguez waited until Williams moved on to other witnesses before approaching Chin again, his expression thoughtful as he processed the discrepancies between her apparent status and demonstrated capabilities. The techniques she had employed were specific to counterinsurgency training programs that most personnel never encountered, suggesting background credentials that didn't match her unremarkable appearance or standard assignment paperwork. Those weren't standard military techniques, Rodriguez observed quietly, his statement halfway between question and recognition. Chun met his gaze directly, her response neither confirming nor denying his assessment, while maintaining perfect operational security protocols. "I received comprehensive self-defense training during my previous assignments," she replied evenly. The medical team worked efficiently to stabilize the injured recruits, their professional assessment revealing injuries consistent with precise non-lethal force designed to incapacitate without causing permanent damage. Davidson's dislocated shoulder and bruised ribs would heal completely within weeks, while his companions suffered similar controlled trauma that spoke to their attackers' remarkable restraint and precision. The attending medic noted that such precise application of force required extensive medical knowledge to avoid causing lasting harm. Williams completed his preliminary incident report while mental questions multiplied about the woman who had single-handedly defeated 5 armed recruits without sustaining any visible injury herself. Her personnel file would require thorough review, and the incident would certainly trigger interest from higher command levels seeking to understand how a routine transfer had demonstrated such extraordinary combat capabilities. The investigation was just beginning, though its direction would soon reveal truths that would reshape base security protocols permanently. Colonel Patterson arrived at his office before dawn to review the incident report that had been flagged for immediate command attention, his coffee growing cold as he studied the disturbing details surrounding the mess hall confrontation. The medical assessment described injuries consistent with advanced combat training, while witness statements painted a picture of impossible speed and precision that defied explanation. 5 experienced recruits had been systematically incapacitated by a single individual whose personnel file showed no combat specialization or advanced training credentials. The security footage revealed even more troubling details as Patterson reviewed the incident frame by frame on his desktop monitor. Chen's movements demonstrated textbook counter-assault techniques that belonged in classified training manuals, her positioning and timing suggesting years of specialized instruction. The knife disarmament sequence particularly caught his attention, as the technique was specific to programs that most base personnel would never encounter during their entire military careers. Patterson summoned his aide and requested a comprehensive background verification on Maya Chun, emphasizing the need for thorough review of her assignment history and training records. The initial personnel file showed a standard transfer from Fort Campbell with unremarkable service ratings and conventional military occupational specialty credentials. Her records indicated no special operations background, advanced combat training, or assignment to units that would provide such specialized skills. The medical report on the injured recruits arrived within the hour, confirming Patterson's growing suspicions about the incident's unusual nature. Dr. Martinez had documented injuries that required precise knowledge of human anatomy to inflict without causing permanent damage, suggesting medical training that complemented the demonstrated combat expertise. The controlled application of force indicated someone with extensive experience in non-lethal neutralization techniques, used primarily by intelligence and special operations personnel. Master Sergeant Rodriguez requested a private meeting that afternoon, his demeanor serious as he entered Patterson's office and closed the door behind him. His 20-year service record included multiple special operations deployments, giving his observations particular credibility when discussing advanced combat techniques. Rodriguez described Chen's movements as matching patterns he had observed only among elite military units during classified training exercises. The techniques she used were specific to counterterrorism programs, Rodriguez explained carefully, his voice reflecting professional concern rather than alarm or suspicion. Her positioning, timing, and restraint levels indicated training that takes years to develop and maintain through constant practice. Patterson listened intently while taking notes about the discrepancies between Chen's apparent background and demonstrated capabilities. Patterson contacted the Intelligence Division that afternoon, requesting priority verification of Chen's security clearance status and assignment authorization through official channels. The standard database queries returned normal results, but the request triggered automated notifications that suggested deeper classification levels might be involved. Intelligence Officer Martinez acknowledged the request and promised expedited review, though her tone indicated complications that couldn't be discussed over unsecured communications. The background investigation expanded throughout the day as Patterson coordinated with multiple departments to verify Chen's credentials and assignment history. Personnel records showed her transfer had been processed through routine channels, but the authorization codes triggered questions when cross-referenced against standard assignment protocols. The discrepancies were subtle but consistent, suggesting either administrative errors or deliberate obfuscation of her true status. Rodriguez returned that evening with additional observations from his discreet inquiries among base personnel who had witnessed the incident. Several NCOs with combat experience had recognized techniques that weren't taught in standard military training programs, while medical staff noted the precise application of force that avoided permanent injury. The collective assessment painted a picture of someone with capabilities that extended far beyond her apparent qualifications. Patterson placed a classified communication request to Special Operations Command as the investigation revealed increasingly sophisticated questions about Chen's true identity and mission status. The incident had exposed someone whose demonstrated abilities suggested elite training that didn't match her official records, creating security concerns that required resolution at the highest levels. His secure message emphasized the urgent need for clarification about personnel assignments that might involve classified operations. The response arrived within hours, requesting immediate secure briefing regarding the Maya Chan investigation and directing Patterson to maintain strict operational security while awaiting further instructions. The priority level indicated involvement of senior command officials who possessed information that couldn't be shared through normal channels. Patterson secured all investigation materials in classified storage, while preparing for revelations that would explain the impossible capabilities demonstrated in the mess hall confrontation. Intelligence Officer Martinez discovered the first anomaly when Chen's personnel file triggered automated security protocols during routine background verification, revealing access restrictions that required special clearance levels to review. The database showed standard transfer documentation, but deeper system queries returned classification barriers that shouldn't exist for conventional military personnel. Martinez had encountered similar restrictions only when investigating personnel involved in compartmentalized operations that operated under multiple layers of security oversight. The cross-reference analysis revealed Chen's assignment had originated through channels typically reserved for special operations deployments, though her official orders showed routine transfer procedures. Martinez traced the authorization codes through the system's hierarchical structure, discovering that Chen's paperwork had been processed by departments that normally handled classified personnel movements. The discrepancies suggested either sophisticated administrative fraud or legitimate covert operations that required careful investigation. Martinez contacted Special Operations Command through secure channels, requesting verification of Chen's clearance status and operational assignment details that might explain the classification barriers. The response came within hours, directing her to halt all electronic inquiries and await direct contact from authorized personnel regarding the investigation. The priority classification indicated involvement of senior officials who possessed information that couldn't be transmitted through normal intelligence networks. Rodriguez continued his discreet interviews with mess hall witnesses, focusing on personnel with combat experience who could accurately assess the techniques Chen had demonstrated during the confrontation. Staff Sergeant Thompson, a former Ranger instructor, described movements that matched specialized training programs used by elite units during counterterrorism operations. Gunnery Sergeant Adams recognized the knife disarmament technique from classified manuals he had studied during advanced combat courses. The medical analysis provided additional evidence of Chen's sophisticated training as Dr. Martinez completed her comprehensive examination of the injured recruit's wounds. The precise application of force had avoided major blood vessels, nerve clusters, and bone structures that could cause permanent disability, suggesting detailed anatomical knowledge combined with extensive practical experience. Such control violence required years of training under expert supervision, capabilities that didn't exist in conventional military programs. Rodriguez compiled witness statements that consistently described Chen's remarkable speed, precision, and restraint during the 30-second confrontation that had incapacitated 5 armed opponents. Multiple observers noted her calm demeanor throughout the incident, maintaining emotional control that spoke to extensive experience with violent encounters. The collective testimony painted a picture of someone whose combat capabilities far exceeded anything available through standard military training pipelines. Patterson received a classified communication that afternoon requiring immediate secure briefing regarding the Maya Chan investigation, with instructions to maintain strict operational security while preparing for senior command involvement. The message indicated that multiple intelligence agencies possessed information relevant to the case, suggesting Chen's assignment involved coordination between different military and civilian organizations. The security protocols demanded absolute discretion while higher authorities determined appropriate disclosure levels. Martinez's investigation revealed that Chen's medical records showed immunizations and treatments consistent with personnel deployed to sensitive overseas locations, though her official assignment history contained no such deployments. The vaccination schedule included prophylactic treatments for diseases endemic to specific geographic regions that weren't disclosed in her standard personnel file. These medical indicators suggested operational history that had been carefully obscured through classification procedures. The pattern analysis confirmed Rodriguez's suspicions that Chun possessed training and experience that couldn't be explained by conventional military service, while Martinez's security investigation revealed administrative structures designed to protect classified operations. Patterson coordinated with both officers to compile comprehensive documentation that would support the emerging theory that Chun was operating undercover for purposes that remained unclear to base command. Chun continued her normal duties throughout the investigation, maintaining her unremarkable persona while demonstrating awareness of the increased scrutiny without acknowledging it directly. Her behavior suggested professional training in counter-surveillance techniques, adapting to observation without revealing operational security concerns. The investigation team realized they were dealing with someone whose true capabilities and mission remained hidden behind sophisticated security protocols. The secure communication arrived that evening, directing Patterson to prepare for immediate briefing by Special Operations Command representatives who would arrive within hours to address the classification issues surrounding Chen's assignment. The message emphasized that all investigation materials should be secured pending review by authorized personnel who possessed the appropriate clearance levels. Patterson prepared for revelations that would finally explain the extraordinary capabilities that had been demonstrated in the mess hall confrontation, though the implications for base security remained troubling regardless of Chen's true identity and mission parameters. Special Operations Colonel Davis arrived at the base before midnight with minimal escort, his presence immediately signaling the classified nature of the briefing that would finally explain Chen's true identity and mission parameters. Patterson and his investigation team assembled in the secure conference room, where electronic countermeasures ensured their discussion would remain completely confidential. Davis carried himself with the quiet authority of someone accustomed to managing operations that existed beyond normal military oversight structures. The briefing began with Davis confirming that Maya Chun was indeed an undercover operative conducting a comprehensive security assessment of base personnel screening procedures and vulnerability identification protocols. Her assignment had originated from concerns about insider threats and security gaps that conventional inspections couldn't detect effectively. The mess hall incident had occurred during the third week of a planned 6-week assessment designed to evaluate base security from multiple operational perspectives. Patterson absorbed the revelation that Chen's mission involved testing base personnel responses to various scenarios while maintaining complete operational cover that had fooled standard security procedures. Her background included extensive special operations training with multiple agencies, providing the combat capabilities that had been demonstrated during the confrontation with the 5 recruits. The sophisticated cover identity had been designed to withstand routine investigation while protecting her ability to conduct thorough security assessments. Davis explained that Chen's assignment included identifying weaknesses in personnel screening that could allow hostile infiltration or internal security threats to develop undetected. The base had been selected for assessment due to its strategic importance and recent personnel turnover that created potential vulnerabilities. Her work had already identified several concerning gaps in security protocols that required immediate attention from command leadership. Rodriguez learned that his instincts about Chen's advanced training had been completely accurate, though the scope of her qualifications exceeded even his experienced assessment of special operations capabilities. Davis confirmed that her techniques represented years of specialized instruction from multiple elite units, creating combat abilities that few personnel possessed. The controlled response during the mess hall incident had demonstrated remarkable restraint given her lethal capabilities. Martinez discovered that the classification barriers she had encountered during her investigation were automatic security protocols designed to protect Chin's operational cover while allowing limited background verification by authorized personnel. The system had functioned exactly as designed, preventing exposure of classified operations while enabling legitimate security concerns to be addressed through proper channels. Her thorough investigation had actually validated the protection systems rather than revealing security flaws. The security implications of Chin's compromised cover created immediate concerns about mission continuation and personnel safety that required careful evaluation by command authorities. Davis explained that the incident had attracted attention that could potentially expose Chin's true identity to hostile elements, creating risks for both her personal safety and operational effectiveness. The investigation itself had generated documentation that needed classification review to prevent further compromise. Patterson faced the challenge of protecting Chin's mission while addressing the legitimate disciplinary issues surrounding the 5 recruits who had assaulted a federal operative during authorized duty performance. The incident created legal complications that extended beyond normal military justice procedures, requiring coordination with multiple agencies that possess jurisdiction over attacks on classified personnel. The recruits' ignorance of Chin's true status wouldn't excuse their criminal behavior. Davis revealed that Chin's preliminary assessment had already identified significant security improvements that needed implementation immediately, regardless of whether her mission continued under current parameters. Her observations about personnel screening, facility security, and response procedures provided valuable insights that would enhance base security substantially. The information was too important to lose despite the operational complications created by the incident. Rodriguez received authorization to serve as Chin's official security liaison, providing legitimate justification for protective measures while maintaining her operational cover to the extent possible. His role would involve coordinating between Chin's mission requirements and base security needs while ensuring her safety during the remainder of her assignment. The position carried classification requirements that would expand his security clearance substantially. The briefing concluded with Davis outlining modified mission parameters that would allow Chin to complete her assessment while adapting to the compromised operational environment created by the mess hall incident. The new protocols balanced mission effectiveness against security concerns while ensuring that valuable intelligence about base vulnerabilities wouldn't be lost due to the unfortunate confrontation. Patterson prepared to implement immediate changes that would protect both Chin's safety and the classified operation's continued success, though the incident's broader implications would require ongoing management at multiple command levels. Colonel Davis and Patterson spent the following morning conducting a comprehensive assessment of Chin's operational security compromise, reviewing witness statements and investigation materials to determine how extensively her cover had been penetrated. The mess hall incident had created a cascade of attention that reached far beyond the initial confrontation, involving multiple base personnel who now possessed fragments of information about Chin's unusual capabilities. Their analysis revealed that maintaining complete operational security was no longer possible under current circumstances. The intelligence review documented that 17 base personnel had witnessed Chin's combat demonstration firsthand, while an additional 43 individuals have been exposed to witness accounts and investigation details that raise questions about her true identity. Medical staff possessed detailed knowledge of the precision techniques she had employed, while security personnel had access to footage and documentation that revealed capabilities inconsistent with standard military training. The scope of exposure required immediate containment strategies to protect operational effectiveness. Chin received her first coded communication update since the incident through secure channels that confirmed her mission status, while providing modified operational parameters designed to adapt to the compromised environment. Her handlers acknowledged that complete cover restoration was impossible, but directed her to continue assessment activities under revised protocols that accounted for increased scrutiny. The message emphasized that her preliminary findings were too valuable to abandon despite the security complications. Davis implemented emergency classification protocols that restricted access to all investigation materials while requiring signed non-disclosure agreements from personnel who had been exposed to sensitive information about Chen's capabilities. The security measures couldn't erase knowledge that had already been shared, but could limit further distribution of details that might compromise operational security. Base personnel received strict instructions about discussing the incident with unauthorized individuals. Rodriguez assumed his new role as Chen's discreet security liaison, providing official justification for protective measures that would otherwise appear suspicious to base personnel. His assignment included monitoring for threats against Chen, while coordinating with intelligence personnel who needed to assess ongoing security risks. The position required him to maintain careful balance between obvious protection and subtle surveillance that wouldn't attract additional attention. General Morrison received his first classified briefing about the security assessment operation that had been conducted on his base without his prior knowledge, learning that Chen's mission had already identified multiple vulnerabilities requiring immediate command attention. The revelation that an undercover operative had successfully infiltrated and operated undetected for 3 weeks raised serious questions about base security protocols. Morrison's concerns focused on both the assessment findings and the operational security breach created by the incident. The strategic evaluation revealed that Chen's mission had generated valuable intelligence about personnel screening gaps, facility security weaknesses, and response procedure deficiencies that outweighed the complications created by her cover compromise. Davis argued for mission continuation under modified parameters rather than immediate extraction, emphasizing that the assessment was only half complete and had already revealed critical information. The decision required balancing operational value against security risks that couldn't be precisely quantified. Chen adapted to her altered operational environment by shifting focus towards security vulnerabilities that could be assessed despite increased scrutiny from base personnel who now suspected her true capabilities. Her modified mission parameters emphasized areas where enhanced awareness of her skills wouldn't compromise assessment effectiveness. The work required greater creativity and subtlety, but remained valuable for identifying security gaps. Patterson coordinated implementation of enhanced security measures designed to protect Chen without revealing the classified nature of her mission to unauthorized personnel. The protective protocols had to appear routine while providing substantial safeguards against potential threats from hostile elements who might target her if they discovered her true identity. The balance required sophisticated operational security that could adapt to changing threat assessments. Intelligence analysis confirmed that Chen's preliminary findings had already justified the assessment program's value, identifying security vulnerabilities that conventional inspections had missed completely. Her observations about insider threat indicators, facility access controls, and personnel screening procedures provided insights that would improve security substantially across multiple installations. The information was too important to lose despite the operational complications. Davis contacted Special Operations Command with his recommendation to continue Chen's mission under modified parameters that accounted for the compromised operational environment while maximizing the remaining assessment opportunities. The proposal included enhanced protective measures, revised operational objectives, and contingency extraction procedures that could be implemented if security conditions deteriorated further. The decision would ultimately rest with senior command officials who possess complete authority over classified assessment operations. Davidson and his 4 companions faced formal military justice proceedings within the week, though the charges had been carefully crafted to protect Chen's operational security while ensuring appropriate consequences for their criminal behavior. The military prosecutor emphasized that assault on any base personnel constituted serious criminal conduct regardless of the victim's specific identity or assignment status. The proceedings would demonstrate that violent behavior toward fellow service members would not be tolerated under any circumstances. Lieutenant Colonel Harris presided over the disciplinary hearing with full knowledge of the classified circumstances surrounding the incident. Though the formal charges focused on assault, conduct unbecoming military personnel, and interference with authorized operations. The prosecutor argued that ignorance of Chen's true status provided no legal defense for unprovoked physical violence against another service member. The case would establish clear precedents about acceptable behavior toward all base personnel. Davidson's defense attorney attempted to argue that his client had genuinely believed Chun was an unauthorized civilian contractor who posed a potential security threat to the facility. The defense strategy emphasized Davidson's supposed concern for base security rather than acknowledging the obvious harassment and intimidation that had escalated into physical assault. Harris rejected this argument, noting that proper security procedures required contacting authorized personnel rather than taking direct action. The testimony phase began with witness statements from multiple mess hall personnel who had observed the incident's development from initial harassment through final confrontation. Rodriguez provided professional assessment of the recruits' behavior, emphasizing that their actions constituted coordinated intimidation tactics rather than legitimate security concerns. The witnesses consistently described unprovoked aggression that escalated despite Chen's attempts to de-escalate the situation peacefully. Chun testified during a closed session that protected operational security while allowing her to describe the incident from her perspective as the victim of unprovoked assault. Her account emphasized the recruits' refusal to accept multiple opportunities to disengage peacefully before resorting to physical violence. She described feeling threatened by their coordinated positioning and aggressive behavior, justifying her defensive response as necessary protection against imminent harm. The medical evidence supported Chen's testimony about the severity of the threat she had faced, as Dr. Martinez explained how the recruits' injuries resulted from precise defensive techniques designed to neutralize attackers without causing permanent damage. The controlled application of force demonstrated remarkable restraint given the circumstances, particularly when Davidson had drawn a weapon during the confrontation. Chen's response had been proportional and professional throughout the incident. Rodriguez's testimony proved crucial in establishing the recruit's culpability, as his military experience and witness perspective provided authoritative assessment of their behavior and Chen's defensive actions. He explained how the recruits had created a threatening environment through coordinated intimidation tactics that would have alarmed any reasonable person. His professional opinion supported Chen's claim of self-defense against multiple attackers who had refused to disengage. The prosecutor's closing argument emphasized that military personnel must maintain professional standards when interacting with all base personnel, regardless of their personal assumptions about someone's identity or authorization status. The case demonstrated how harassment and intimidation could escalate into serious criminal conduct that endangered lives and compromised base security. The charges reflected the military's commitment to protecting all authorized personnel from violence. Harris delivered the disciplinary board's verdict after reviewing all evidence and testimony, finding all 5 recruits guilty of assault, conduct unbecoming, and interference with authorized operations. The decision emphasized that their behavior had violated multiple regulations and criminal statutes while creating security risks that could have had serious consequences. The verdict would send a clear message about acceptable conduct standards for all military personnel. The sentencing phase resulted in dismissal from military service for all 5 recruits, with permanent notation in their records that would affect future employment and veterans' benefits eligibility. Davidson received additional punishment for weapon involvement, including forfeiture of rank and military honors earned during his service. The sentences reflected the serious nature of their offenses while serving as deterrent examples for other personnel. Patterson announced the disciplinary results to base personnel through official channels, emphasizing that violent behavior toward fellow service members would always result in severe consequences regardless of circumstances or motivations. The announcement reinforced behavior standards while protecting operational security by focusing on general conduct principles rather than specific incident details. The message demonstrated command commitment to maintaining professional environments for all authorized personnel. Chen received her updated mission parameters through secure channels that acknowledged the fundamental change in her operational environment while directing her to maximize remaining assessment opportunities. The new directives shifted focus toward security vulnerabilities that could be evaluated despite increased scrutiny from base personnel who now suspected her exceptional capabilities. Her handlers emphasized that the preliminary findings had already justified the mission's value, making continuation worthwhile even under compromised conditions. The revised operational objectives emphasized testing institutional responses to security incidents rather than maintaining complete operational invisibility that was no longer possible. Chen's demonstrated capabilities had created opportunities to assess how Base Command handled classified personnel protection and information security protocols. The mission evolution required different skills, but remained valuable for identifying weaknesses in procedures designed to protect sensitive operations. Rodriguez officially assumed his liaison responsibilities, providing legitimate justification for protective measures that would otherwise appear suspicious to base personnel who had witnessed Chen's extraordinary combat demonstration. His new assignment included coordinating between Chen's assessment activities and base security requirements while ensuring her safety during the remainder of her mission. The role required careful balance between obvious protection and discreet surveillance. Chun adapted her assessment techniques to account for heightened awareness among base personnel who now treated her with cautious respect rather than the dismissive attitudes she had encountered initially. The change in behavior patterns provided valuable intelligence about how personnel responded to perceived authority and competence. Her modified approach focused on vulnerabilities that remained accessible despite increased attention from security-conscious individuals. The enhanced security measures implemented to protect Chun created natural opportunities to test base response procedures under realistic conditions that couldn't be simulated through conventional exercises. Rodriguez monitored how different departments coordinated protective protocols, while Chen evaluated the effectiveness of communication systems and threat assessment procedures. The combined efforts provided comprehensive analysis of institutional security capabilities. Base personnel began treating Chun with noticeable deference following widespread discussion of the mess hall incident, creating new dynamics that revealed important information about authority structures and informal communication networks. Her assessment expanded to include analysis of how extraordinary events influenced base culture and operational effectiveness. The behavioral changes provided insights into psychological factors that affected security awareness and personnel reliability. Chun continued her systematic evaluation of facility access controls, personnel screening procedures, and information security protocols while adapting to the reality that her movements were now subject to increased observation. The modified assessment required greater sophistication but yielded valuable data about security measures under stress conditions. Her work demonstrated how classified operations could continue effectively despite operational complications. Rodriguez coordinated with intelligence personnel to ensure Chen's protective requirements didn't interfere with her assessment activities while providing security against potential threats from hostile elements who might target her if they discovered her true identity. The protection protocols had to appear routine while offering substantial safeguards against sophisticated threats. The balance required constant adjustment based on evolving threat assessments. The operational assessment revealed significant improvements in base security awareness following the incident, as personnel demonstrated increased vigilance and adherence to established protocols. Chin documented how extraordinary events could catalyze positive changes in security culture, while identifying areas where improvements remain necessary. Her findings provided valuable insights about institutional learning and adaptation capabilities. Patterson implemented additional security protocols based on Chin's ongoing recommendations while maintaining operational security about the classified nature of her mission. The changes appeared to result from routine security reviews rather than specific assessment activities, protecting Chin's operational cover while improving base security substantially. The improvements validated the assessment program's effectiveness despite operational complications. Chin's preliminary report highlighted multiple security vulnerabilities that required immediate attention from command authorities, including gaps in personnel screening, facility access controls, and incident response procedures that could be exploited by hostile elements. Her observations provided actionable intelligence that would enhance security across multiple installations. The information justified continuing her mission despite the challenges created by compromised operational security. The mission adaptation demonstrated that valuable security assessments could continue even under adverse conditions, providing important precedents for future operations that might face similar complications. Chin's work under modified parameters yielded insights that wouldn't have been available through conventional assessment methods. The experience enhanced understanding of how classified operations could maintain effectiveness while adapting to unexpected operational challenges that required creative solutions and flexible implementation strategies. Chin's comprehensive security assessment identified multiple systemic vulnerabilities that extended far beyond the personnel screening issues that had originally prompted her assignment to the base. Her analysis revealed weaknesses in facility access controls, information security protocols, and emergency response procedures that created significant risks for classified operations and personnel safety. The findings demonstrated that conventional security inspections had missed critical gaps that required immediate attention from senior command authorities. Patterson implemented enhanced screening protocols for all base personnel based on Chin's detailed recommendations about improving background verification and behavioral assessment procedures. The new systems incorporated lessons learned from Chin's successful infiltration, including measures to detect individuals with advanced training who might pose insider threats. The enhanced protocols would serve as models for implementation across multiple military installations facing similar security challenges. The training program modifications addressed inappropriate conduct and authority recognition issues that the mess hall incident had exposed among junior personnel who had failed to respect proper behavioral standards. Chin's assessment revealed patterns of harassment and intimidation that indicated systemic problems with leadership training and cultural standards. The comprehensive reforms would prevent future incidents while improving overall unit cohesion and operational effectiveness. General Morrison ordered a base-wide security review that incorporated Chin's findings about institutional vulnerabilities and response procedures that required substantial improvement. Her assessment had revealed coordination gaps between different departments that could be exploited during emergency situations or security incidents. The comprehensive review would address these weaknesses while establishing new protocols that enhanced overall base security posture significantly. Intelligence Division received Chin's preliminary report detailing security vulnerabilities that had operational implications extending beyond the immediate base environment. Her observations about personnel screening gaps, facility access weaknesses, and information security deficiencies provided actionable intelligence for improving security across the entire military installation network. The findings would influence policy development at the highest levels of military command. Special Operations Command evaluated expanding the assessment program to other installations based on the valuable intelligence Chin had gathered despite the operational complications created by the mess hall incident. Her work had demonstrated the program's effectiveness in identifying security gaps that conventional inspections couldn't detect. The success justified broader implementation of similar assessment operations across strategically important military facilities. Chin's mission had inadvertently tested base response procedures under realistic stress conditions that provided valuable insights about institutional adaptation and learning capabilities under pressure. The incident had triggered comprehensive security reviews and policy improvements that enhanced base protection substantially. Her assessment revealed how extraordinary events could catalyze positive changes in security culture and operational effectiveness. The personnel behavior modifications resulting from Chin's presence and the disciplinary actions against the 5 recruits created measurable improvements in base culture and professional standards. Her assessment documented how swift consequences for misconduct influenced overall behavior patterns while reinforcing proper authority structures. The changes demonstrated institutional learning that would have lasting effects on base operations. Rodriguez's expanded security responsibilities included implementing Chen's recommendations for improving coordination between different departments during security incidents and emergency situations. The enhanced protocols address communication gaps and response procedure deficiencies that Chen had identified through systematic observation. His new position would serve as a model for similar liaison roles at other installations. Patterson coordinated with multiple command levels to ensure Chen's security recommendations received appropriate attention and implementation resources. The findings required substantial policy changes and budget allocations that extended beyond base-level authority. The coordination process demonstrated how assessment programs could influence security policy development at regional and national levels. The institutional changes implemented based on Chen's assessment created a foundation for ongoing security improvements that would continue long after her mission concluded. Her work had identified weaknesses and provided solutions that enhanced base security while serving as precedents for similar improvements at other installations. The lasting impact justified the assessment program's continuation despite operational challenges. Chen's evaluation revealed that security vulnerabilities often resulted from systemic issues rather than individual failures, requiring comprehensive policy changes rather than isolated corrections. Her findings provided blueprints for addressing similar problems across multiple installations while improving overall military security posture. The insights would influence security policy development for years to come, demonstrating the long-term value of sophisticated assessment operations that could identify and address institutional weaknesses before they could be exploited by hostile elements. Chen completed her comprehensive security assessment with a detailed report that documented systematic vulnerabilities requiring immediate attention from senior command authorities, despite the operational complications created by the mess hall incident. Her analysis provided specific recommendations for improving personnel screening, facility access controls, and emergency response procedures that would enhance security across multiple installations. The findings validated the assessment program's effectiveness while demonstrating how classified operations could adapt to unexpected challenges. General Morrison received his classified briefing about the full scope of security improvements that Chen's assessment had identified, learning that her work had revealed critical gaps in base protection that conventional inspections had missed completely. The comprehensive analysis provided actionable intelligence for addressing institutional weaknesses while establishing new security protocols that would serve as models for other military installations. Morrison authorized immediate implementation of all recommended changes despite the substantial resources required. The formal dismissal proceedings for Davidson and his 4 companions concluded with permanent removal from military service and notation in their records that would affect future employment opportunities and veterans' benefits eligibility. The disciplinary action demonstrated institutional commitment to protecting all authorized personnel from harassment and violence while establishing clear precedents for similar cases. The consequences served as powerful deterrents that reinforced professional behavior standards throughout the base. Rodriguez received official commendation for his professional handling of the sensitive security situation that had required careful balance between operational security requirements and legitimate investigation procedures. His recognition included promotion to base security chief with expanded responsibilities for implementing Chen's recommendations permanently. The advancement reflected command confidence in his ability to manage complex security challenges while maintaining appropriate classification protocols. Patterson implemented permanent policy changes based on Chen's comprehensive assessment, including enhanced screening procedures, improved coordination protocols, and expanded training programs that address behavioral standards and authority recognition issues. The reforms created lasting improvements in base security posture while serving as templates for implementation across the military installation network. The changes would continue protecting personnel and operations long after Chen's departure. Special Operations Command declared Chen's mission successful despite the initial compromise of her operational cover, emphasizing that her findings had provided valuable intelligence about institutional vulnerabilities that justified the assessment program's continuation and expansion. The operation had demonstrated how classified personnel could adapt to adverse conditions while maintaining mission effectiveness. Command authorized development of enhanced protection protocols based on lessons learned from Chen's experience. Chen prepared for extraction and reassignment to her next assessment location, having successfully identified and documented security gaps that required attention while adapting her operational methods to accommodate compromised cover. Her work had provided comprehensive analysis of base vulnerabilities while testing institutional response procedures under realistic stress conditions. The mission's success validated sophisticated assessment techniques that would influence future operations. The intelligence value of Chen's assessment extended beyond immediate security improvements to provide insights about institutional learning capabilities and adaptation procedures that would inform policy development at multiple command levels. Her observations about how organizations responded to extraordinary events offered valuable data for understanding military culture and operational effectiveness. The findings would influence training programs and leadership development initiatives across the service. Patterson coordinated final implementation of security enhancements that would continue protecting base operations while serving as demonstration projects for similar improvements at other installations. The comprehensive reforms addressed systemic weaknesses that Chen had identified while establishing new standards for personnel behavior and security awareness. The changes created lasting institutional improvements that validated the assessment program's strategic value. Rodriguez assumed his expanded security responsibilities with full authority to maintain and develop the protective measures that Chen's assessment had recommended for long-term base security enhancement. His new position included coordination with intelligence agencies and special operations commands that might conduct similar assessment missions in the future. The role established precedents for managing classified operations while maintaining operational security. The mission conclusion demonstrated that valuable security assessments could succeed even under adverse operational conditions, providing important precedents for future operations that might face similar challenges. Chen's adaptation to compromise cover had yielded insights that conventional assessment methods couldn't provide. The experience enhanced understanding of institutional vulnerability identification while establishing new protocols for protecting classified personnel during sensitive operations that required sophisticated coordination between multiple command levels and security agencies. 6 months after Chen's extraction, the base demonstrated measurably improved security posture and personnel conduct that validated every recommendation she had provided during her comprehensive assessment mission. Monthly security evaluations showed significant reductions in behavioral incidents, enhanced compliance with access protocols, and improved coordination between departments during emergency situations. The institutional changes had created lasting cultural improvements that continued strengthening base operations and personnel safety. Rodriguez thrived in his expanded role as base security chief, implementing Chen's recommendations with systematic precision while developing additional improvements that build upon her foundational assessment work. His leadership had transformed security operations through enhanced training programs, improved communication protocols, and sophisticated threat assessment procedures that address vulnerabilities Chen had identified. The position had become a model for similar security leadership roles across multiple military installations. The assessment program expanded to 12 additional military installations following the documented success of Chen's mission despite the operational complications that had initially threatened its effectiveness. Command authorities recognized that her adaptive techniques had provided valuable intelligence that conventional inspections couldn't match. The program's growth demonstrated institutional commitment to proactive security enhancement through sophisticated vulnerability identification and comprehensive institutional improvement initiatives. The disciplinary example established by Davidson and his companions' permanent dismissal from military service had created powerful deterrent effects throughout the military education system, significantly reducing harassment incidents and improving professional behavior standards across multiple training installations. Their case was regularly cited in leadership courses as demonstration of consequences for misconduct toward fellow service members. The precedent had influenced military justice procedures and training programs nationwide. Chin's specialized techniques were integrated into advanced special operations training curricula, providing elite personnel with enhanced capabilities for conducting similar assessment missions while maintaining operational security under challenging conditions. Her methods for adapting to compromise-cover situations have become standard protocols for classified operations that might face unexpected exposure. The training improvements enhanced operational effectiveness across multiple special operations units. General Morrison received recognition from senior command for his proactive implementation of security improvements that had transformed his installation into a model facility for military security protocols and personnel conduct standards. The comprehensive reforms based on Chin's assessment had exceeded expectations while demonstrating effective leadership during complex operational challenges. His success had influenced promotion decisions and assignment considerations at the highest levels of military command. The broader program continued with enhanced protection protocols that incorporated lessons learned from Chin's experience, ensuring that future assessment operations would benefit from improved security measures and operational procedures. The enhanced methods balanced mission effectiveness against personnel safety while maintaining the sophisticated capabilities required for comprehensive vulnerability identification. The improvements validated institutional learning and adaptation capabilities. Patterson's career advancement reflected command recognition of his professional management of the sensitive security situation that had required coordination between multiple agencies while protecting classified operations and ensuring appropriate justice for criminal misconduct. His handling of the complex case had become a study example for senior officers facing similar challenges involving classified personnel and security incidents. The recognition had opened opportunities for advancement to higher command positions. The long-term impact extended beyond immediate security improvements to influence military culture and institutional attitudes toward professional conduct, authority recognition, and respect for all authorized personnel, regardless of apparent status or assignment details. Chin's mission had catalyzed conversations about harassment prevention, security awareness, and institutional responsibility that continued shaping policy development. The cultural changes represented lasting progress toward more professional and secure military environments. Chin's success despite operational complications had validated the assessment program's strategic value, while demonstrating that sophisticated security evaluations could adapt to adverse conditions and continue providing valuable intelligence for institutional improvement. Her work had established new standards for classified operations while proving that comprehensive vulnerability assessments could succeed even under challenging circumstances. The precedents would influence special operations planning for decades to come. What strikes me most about this story is how one moment of standing up to harassment ended up improving security for thousands of people across multiple bases. Have you ever had a situation where doing the right thing in the moment led to much bigger positive changes than you ever expected? I'd love to hear about it in the comments. The assessment program's continuation with improved protocols ensured that military installations would receive ongoing vulnerability evaluations that prevented security gaps from developing while maintaining the highest standards of personnel protection and operational effectiveness. Chin's pioneering work had created lasting institutional improvements that would continue protecting service members and national security interests for years to come, demonstrating how individual courage and professional excellence could catalyze systematic positive change across entire military organizations.